In this video, I'm going to show you how to install DaVinci Resolve 17 as well as all of the settings I use for a perfectly smooth editing experience in just a few minutes. Welcome to Crash Course DaVinci Resolve. I'm Noah. Let's dive in. First things first, let's start with a Google search. If you search up DaVinci Resolve 17 will be the first thing to pop up, whether it's an ad or not. Once you get to Resolve 17's page, you just scroll down a little and you have the Download Now button. Here's where you have to make your first decision. If you're newer to Resolve, I recommend downloading DaVinci Resolve 17. DaVinci Resolve Studio is the paid version. That's what I'll be downloading today. I don't really recommend Resolve 16. There's no real reason to go back to the previous update. DaVinci Resolve 17 is fantastic. Again, you'll probably click on Windows here. I'm going to click on Windows for DaVinci Resolve Studio 17. Now here it's going to ask you to register. If you don't have the Studio version and you're just downloading the free version for the first time, all you have to do is come down here and click Download Only. You don't have to mess with registering if you don't want to. Since I've already registered, I'm just going to click Download Only. And as you can see, it will start the download shortly. Once it's downloaded, you want to open it in your unzipping application of choice. I don't know about you, I've been using 7-Zip for like 20 years now, almost literally. And then we're just going to extract it to wherever you want. I'm going to extract mine to my downloads. Okay, I lied. I put it on my desktop. You guys don't need to see the weird shit in my downloads. Wherever you extracted it, here you just open it. Here it opens up the installer. I recommend excluding the Fairlight Audio Accelerator utility. I've never used it. I don't think it even does anything. Eventually, you'll come to this setup wizard in which you just hit next. Accept the license agreement after you read it in its entirety, of course. Choose where you want it installed, click next, and install. After that, your installation is complete. We can dive into the program. And when you first open DaVinci Resolve, you're going to get this little loading screen. Once that loading screen is passed, you'll see a page something like this. You have what are called databases and you have what are called projects. Now think of a database like kind of a place for your files to live. When you first boot up, you'll already have a database called local database, and it's probably fine just to stick with that one. But if you want to, you could create a second database on something like a portable hard drive, and then what you can do is you can import that database on a separate computer with that same portable drive and work on DaVinci Resolve regardless of whether you're on your laptop or on your computer or whatever. We won't be covering that today though, so stick with the local database. And then you won't have a folder here. You can create a folder if you like, but we're just gonna start with a new project. So you can double click on Untitled Project here, or you can hit the New Project button. I'm just gonna double click on Untitled Project and we're gonna be taken into a project page. Now the first thing I like to do is come up here to Workspace and come over here to Full Screen Window. And then that full screens DaVinci Resolve for you. Now I know that this program can look intimidating, especially when you realize that these are pages worth of material here. Before we get into the complications of the program, let's just go and get our settings right first. First thing I like to do is come up here to the word DaVinci Resolve and click on Preferences. And click over to User and make sure that in Project Save and Load here, that Live Save is checked. Newer versions of DaVinci Resolve have this checked by default, but it's good to double check just to be sure because this is your autosave feature. DaVinci Resolve is way more stable than Adobe Premiere, but it does have some issues sometimes, especially if your hardware's scuffed. Live Save is a super efficient autosave that just prevents all that nightmare. I also recommend turning on project backups and having some backups come up. That way, if you make some changes that you end up not being able to undo for some reason, you can just restore a backup to a project. The other thing I like to do is come to the editing tab here on the side and change the start time code to 0. Normally it starts at a 1 to note like the first reel of footage. Like it's an anachronism from back when people were using actual film reels. You can just set it to 0 so that your time codes remain consistent. After that, we're done in the User tab. We can come back to System, and now we can look at the Memory and GPU tab. Run through all these numbers and selections and make sure everything looks okay. I know that there can be some issues with having multiple graphics cards. Other than that, we're done in this Settings tab, so we can hit Save now. And we're going to come up here to File and go to Project Settings. Now here in the Master Settings tab, we're going to set up all the settings we expect to be using in most of our videos. So for me, I edit all my videos in 4K, so I'm going to set this to 4K. You can set this to 1080p or whatever you need it to be. I also record my videos in 29.97 frames per second. You can set this to 60 or whatever you need again. Generally, for video monitoring, you can take this down to a lower resolution if you just want to view your video in a lower resolution. rather than the source resolution if you're using something high taxing like 4K. Video bit depth is going to be 10-bit by default. Change this to 8-bit unless you know you're going to be using 10-bit footage. After that, let's come to presets. And now you can see I've already saved mine, but you can come here to save as, hit apply current configuration, and then enter a name for your preset. I'm going to call this one test. Then what we can do is we can right click and we can click save as user default config. And then these settings will be what a project opens with every time we start a new project, so you don't have to change these every time. This video is the first in a series I like to call Crash Course DaVinci Resolve. The idea is that once this 30 video series is complete, you could watch one video a day for a month and come out the other end a master at DaVinci Resolve. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when the next video goes live. Speaking of going live, if you have any questions, you can come to my Twitch stream or my Discord. We hang out both of those places quite a bit and talk about video editing. Come by, say hi, tell me that this video sent you there, and I will see you in the next episode of Crash Course DaVinci Resolve.
Penguin came in with $20, said let's go. That's $12.50. That's $1,250 for charity, guys.